All right, welcome to our Market of the Moment update for the week of February 21st, 2022. Chris Madrid in the house. What's
Hey,
going
hey,
on?
hey. Hey, man,
Hey.
sunny and 75 in Dallas these days.
Man, we always get the beautiful weather when we do a Market of the Moment update. Seems like we get a little rain or seems cold or something. So today,
Or
icy
so.
weather, all the kids are home from school,
Oh yeah.
but we're all
Hey, speaking
still.
of, y'all may get a treat today. There may be some little ones running in and around here. So be on the
Oh,
lookout. Be on the
gonna
lookout.
put them to
Who's
work.
Waldo? We're gonna do a little show of who's Waldo today.
All right. Well, let's get started with it
Yeah.
today. Got a lot happening in the world,
Oh my goodness. Yeah,
our
is there
markets,
ever?
and of course, what goes on in the world affects us
Absolutely.
locally. It's funny. I was thinking this morning. It was probably close to 20 years ago when I was teaching history in our public education system. I was
Wow.
sitting down in a lecture hall at SMU on the summer, listening to how the worldwide business economic plan was the best thing, and casting that wide net and the world being all integrated. And um, now I think we question if that's necessarily because dispute all the way around the world affects us major ways.
For
So
sure.
let's
Yeah,
talk about
either
how it's
directly or
affecting
indirectly, right?
mortgage rates today.
Yeah, yeah. So it's unfortunate, but any crisis, any obviously war, that's always it's always bad for the stock market, right? So you have to kind of think about it from this perspective: is your stock market is short term, obviously short term investments, and the bond market is your longer term, right? So anything that will negatively impact the stock market, essentially those investors are pulling their money out of the stock market into bonds, which are a more safe, safe return. Well, if the stock market's doing bad, normally, right, typically interest rates are doing good. So we had a slight dip today. So I think on a 30-year fixed, you can now get down to around 3.9, 3.95 versus 4.1, 4.2 where they were earlier this week and last week. So that's, if you're in the market to purchase a home, it's great news. From a world perspective, it's not good news for the you know people they're losing their lives and injured and all that stuff in Ukraine. So but yeah, man, crazy enough. One of the things that you and I were touching on earlier as well is we're starting to see customers asking about different options, right? Which we'll touch on here in a little bit as well, is fixed rate mortgages versus your adjustable rate mortgages, which we'll cover that here in just a second. But I think from an overall trend perspective, we had a slight dip today and part of this week. The overall trend, right, is still rates are headed north. So when we were talking last year when we first started doing this, I was fully expecting mortgage rates to be at 4% by the end of 2022, and that quickly happened in February, right? So this month, essentially the end of January, beginning of this month, rates had already hit 4%. So my revised consensus now is 4.5 to 5% by the end of the year, right? Is where we'll still head. And then over the next handful of years, 2-3 years, my guess is we'll get into get back into that 6 range. So it doesn't mean you won't be able to purchase a home. It just means it may cost you a little bit more, maybe a little bit more difficult, right?
Yeah, let's take a second to talk about that. We talked earlier in the week, just privately a little bit about some what interest rates ticking up, basically, if it drives people out of the market or not. And we
Yeah.
kind of came to a consensus that a 1% uptick would most likely drive about 10% of buyers out of the market. So I want to take a second to talk about that, what the implications on the market might be. Some people see, they think of these numbers and they think, ooh, it's going to drive it hard one way or the other, but let's talk a
Yeah.
little bit about that.
Yeah. So, one of the common tools that we use and that we see is, yeah, I mean, we've literally seen interest rates go from 3% to 4% overnight, right? So if as a buyer, if you were able to qualify, and at the max, right, you maxed out at 300,000 at a 3% interest rate, your maximum now at 4% has dropped by 10%, right? So you just went from a $300,000 house down to roughly a $270,000 house, right? Now, if you were looking, depending on the city that you were looking in, if 300,000 was on the low end, and we're still seeing inventory shortages, right? Then now that dropping down to that 270 price at the higher rate has now really just moved you out of that city that you were looking in, right? And typically it pushes you further out, right? If you were looking at, we'll say my neck of the woods, right? So I'm in McKinney. If you were looking at homes in the McKinney area, for 300,000, going down to 270, it essentially pushes you out of McKinney, right? You can no longer purchase in McKinney. You're then going to have to go a little bit further north, which, Melissa and Anna are the next towns, up 75. I would imagine that 270 even pushes you further out from there, right? So now
Yes.
you're pushing past Van Alstyne, you're pushing into Sherman, which, in the Sherman Denison area, you can still purchase a home for $270,000, right? So that's a little bit of what we're seeing when it comes to, kind of what we've talked about, this affordability crisis.
Doesn't necessarily push buyers completely out of the market, but it pushes them out of the market they might want to be in as their choice A.
Right.
So it's important to have choice A, Bs, and sometimes Cs as buyers in this market right now, because it's
Absolutely.
often totally dependent upon what you can afford at the time. So you mentioned earlier when we were talking, and then so this is obviously switching back to our trends just a little bit, but people are asking, different options versus for their lending purpose. So let's talk a little bit about fixed rate versus an ARM.
Yeah. So, so adjustable rates got a nasty rap, back in 2005, 6, and 7, right before the housing bubble and the Great Recession that we had back in 2008, 2009. But there is, adjustable mortgages aren't bad. I kind of hate that they blanketed all adjustable options under just ARMs, right? So when people hear ARMs, they're like, run for the hills. It's the boogeyman. But the reality is it may not be, right? I mean, if you're if you're moving to Texas for work or moving out of Texas, right, one or the other, and hey, my company normally relocates me every 5 to 7 years, and you can save 0.5% or 0.75% in interest, then an adjustable option may be the right fit for you, right? But again, it's getting with a professional, working through numbers and talking things out to see if that's something that would benefit you. For example, I mean, again, this is just today, right? So for example, today, a 30-year fix would put you right at about 3.95%, right? And a 10-year adjustable rate mortgage, an ARM, would lock you in for the next 10 years at 3.125%. So that's, per month, I mean, that's almost $200 in savings there. And again, let's say this is for John. He's, he relocated, his company relocated him to Texas, and they've told him, hey, you'll be there for the next 5 to 7 years. Well, this is a great option, right? I mean, he's going to save, almost $200 a month. And it's overall, it's a lower interest option. So again, it's not going to, these aren't the, the pay option ARMs that were out and available back in the day. These are strictly, it's an adjustable rate option where the interest rate is fixed for the next 10 years. After year 10, it has the ability to adjust, but there are caps to how much it can adjust per year, right? So you're not going to, on year 11, you're not going to go from 3.125% up to 20%. That's not going to happen, right? So again, at the end of the day, what we try to do is provide data and provide information, and just obviously get people thinking and talking and asking, right? If this is all, any of it's going to be beneficial and a good fit for them.
So, I think it's always important for consumers to remember that after the mortgage blow up and mortgage crisis, ARMS had a lot to do with that, I believe. Government has put things in place to make sure products like that aren't available anymore. Just the way we were not in a housing bubble due to the changes that were enacted, and you can't just get a mortgage like you could during that time. We're in a lot different situation than we were in 2008 housing bubble concerns. And so also this ARM is a completely different product than an ARM you might have gotten 2004, 5, 6. Am I correct there?
For sure.
So,
absolutely. Yeah. The products that are offered today, that what guaranteed rate offers, they are, which is what a lot of those pay option ARMs back in the 2000s were. You would make a less than interest payment, and the difference would be added onto the back end of your loan, right? That's what a negative amortization type loan was. None of the options today that we offer that I've seen have that feature, have that option, whatever you want to call it. You're going to, at a minimum, pay principal and interest. There are very little interest only options now as well, right? Where you can just pay interest. Really, all of the products that we offer internally, we can broker some options out, but they're all going to require you to pay principal and interest, so that you're paying the loan off over a set period of time.
Gotcha. All right, well, let's move on to our current real estate trends and market. Got to give a shout out to Kip Callahan at Chicago Title. Helps me put these stats together and things to bring to you. So shout out to him. Let's look at our local market. So here in Collin County, these were as of Monday of this week. So we're looking at 3.7%, nearly 4% over list price in Collin County. So a home's listed, it's generally selling for nearly 4% over on average. The last time we had stats, we were 7 days on market in Collin County. That's remained the same. Basically, that's when it goes on the market to when it goes under contract is 7 days.
Hey, so that means you can offer 4% over asking and automatically get it?
No, it doesn't. We're going to touch on that in a second, wise guy.
All right. All right. Just making sure.
And in Collin County, once again, our monthly supply dropped to 0.4. That's another 10th off of where we were at. We had a half-month supply last time we put these numbers up. I was just talking to an agent friend of mine earlier this morning. We both got into the business, about the same time, 5 to 6 years ago. And a month's supply then was 3 to 4 months. We were talking about how low it was, and man, we'd give anything to get back to that. So in our neighboring county, Denton, usually trends very close to Collin County. We're at 102.9% or nearly 3% over list. That's up 0.1%. Didn't mention Collin County is up a full percent from the last time, which was a couple weeks ago. Denton County, 7 days on market. That's an extra day where they were at 6, and now they have a half a month supply, which is a 10th of a drop. Dallas County, always trending a little lower. We've always talked about got a wide variety of price ranges in Dallas County. So just over 100% of asking, just under just over list price. That did tick up a little bit. 11 days on market in Dallas County, and they have a 0.7 month supply. So even under a month supply in Dallas County. Grayson County, where we're always talking about, we can get a deal. just under 2% of list. You can actually still get a home up there. I promise you though, if it is a top-notch home, you better go in with more than asking. Grayson County's rural. You got a wide range of things going on up there. So the market's so varied. That number skewed a little bit. I would consider your upper tier homes. I would look at the Collin Denton County and be more in that area. Would you agree on that? I know you're doing work up there.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the, again, you have to know the market or work with people that know the market. If it's a, you know, a brand new home, newly updated, newly renovated, has all the bells and whistles, you know, quartz and granite, and you know, ultimately also the finish outs, right? If it has really nice upgraded finish outs, you're not going to get it for under list, right? And those are those things that you have to know. You're gonna get frustrated if you know, if you go in thinking, hey, I'm gonna get something, you know, 2% under list, and it's a, you know, newly renovated or a new build, right? I mean, we're seeing a lot of the stuff that I'm doing up there is a lot of new builds. So they are, you know, medium to high end finishes and all that kind of stuff. So that is going to essentially drive the value and drive the price up.
Definitely. And 16 days on market in Grayson County and a 1.2 month supply up there. So a little bit better. So I want to we're going to go next. We're going to look at some comps I did last week. These are actually in Stonebridge Ranch subdivision within Stonebridge Ranch. One of the actually probably older neighborhoods in there. I know this slide's a little blurry, but my three comps down here are 1990 and 88 and 1992. A subject property was a 93, but mentioned earlier, Collin County average about, you know, just under 3% over list. If you're not working with an agent that's really working numbers for you, you know, if you're thinking you're going to get a home at that very often, you know, I'm giving you this data here to prove our point we were speaking of. So here the average over list was 10.2% and the max was 18.84, nearly 19% over list. So you can see I crunched my numbers down here at the bottom based on the square footage of this home, the subject property we were looking at. And, you know, my data was saying that a $400,000 list price was going to take $475 to $480 probably to get this home. And, you know, chances are it possibly might even hit $500,000 in this market.
Yeah, this is, you know, obviously all great information and a good point, man. If you have, again, if you're working with an agent or talking to an agent, or, you know, have a friend of a friend that, you know, does real estate on the side, either they don't know how or they don't have access to this information. So whenever you go to make an offer, either you're overpaying, right? Because they're telling you to offer, hey, I've heard that you need to offer 20-25% over list. And this is clearly showing that, hey, in this specific area, you know, it could have taken 18 and 19, but if you're going in offering 20 to 25, well, then you're significantly overpaying. Or if they have you going in at list, then you're just spinning your wheels. You're getting frustrated. You're wasting everybody's time because you're not even on the same planet, right? At the end of the day. So anyway, you guys do a great job.
You know, my logic here when I'm telling, you know, my client 475 at a 400,000 list price, if my client was to offer 19% over, they would be at 476. You know, after looking at this particular property, I didn't feel like it was going to be worth that much personally. So my clients actually moved away from this home, but just an example of, you know, I guess a smaller niche of Collin County market that's not selling at 3% over. So you need to know these things, make sure you're working with folks that breaking down numbers and really giving you honest data. Let's move on to our western counties, Tarrant and Parker County. Tarrant County's trend, much like Dallas, just a hair over list price in Tarrant County, 100.9%. That is ticked up 0.2% since last time. 9 days on market's the same, and they're at about 0.6 months supply in Tarrant County. Once again, wide range of homes, some rural in that area. So Parker County, 97.6% or nearly 4% under list price. Is that right? No, I didn't change my number there. So Parker County trends a lot like Grayson County does, on the outskirts, very rural. So if you're in Parker County and you're going after that home with all the bells and whistles, it would be the same as Grayson. You need to go in over list at least a little bit, judging by these numbers. 28 days on market, which is 12 more than the last time we talked, which is a significant jump. For and sure. A 1.4 month supply. So my brain starts wondering why 28 days on market out there and why it jumped 12 days in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
So next thing I want to talk about real quick, there's we obviously just talked about all these prices, and pricing is basically a supply and demand issue. So why is there such a demand? Why are there so many buyers in the market today? And generally, when you read and get your information, it's basically three things that are driving this market right now. And several of these, things are going to continue. I guess all of them are going to continue. So the situation changing soon. To me, I don't see it changing anytime soon. As we talked about a second ago, we've already driven out probably 10% of buyers, possibly from the market, and we're at the stage right now, it's still a frenzy. So if we tick up to even 5% and take another 10% out, I really don't see the hit in our market. I'm not, obviously not an economist, but judging by these things, rising interest rates, we've talked about, people are trying to rush in the market to beat those rates. You're not the only person I've heard 5% by the end of the year. And then looking at, even into the sixes the next year. So people have moved their 2 and 3 year plans up to now. Everybody but builders. So there lies the problem. The next thing is millennials are reaching their peak home buying age. I think many of these millennials are bringing quite a bit of money into the market as well. Sometimes we think younger buyers don't have that kind of money to bring to the market, but I believe the millennials do. So, but this quote, the strength of the housing market, it's not surprising given this ongoing wave of millennial demand. We're working with many of that fall into that millennial range, and they are anxious for home ownership because they see the value of it.
Yeah.
And then lastly, the same group that's flooding into that market is coming out of the rising rent rate market. They are tired of paying $400 or $500 more a month for rent than they can pay to own the home and do the things they want to do to it. So rents are already at high, and they're expected to continue rising. So Chris, thoughts on any of these three things?
No, I mean, as you said, millennial, one of the things that I'm seeing as well is, parents of millennials that have cashed out, right, that have sold homes, they're sitting on a good amount of cash. So what I'm seeing as well is parents wanting to help their kids get into a home. And again, because of rising rent rates, right, it's going to cost them just as much or more to rent than buy. So that's, you know, that's what we're seeing a lot of as well is there is kind of an influx of cash because they've been able to, you know, cash out on investments or, you know, properties that they own. They can, you know, they're selling it a lot higher, higher amount now. So it's a combination of all those things. And then, you know, obviously not to mention, you know, lumber and the supply chain and all the other things that, you know, I feel like builders are building as fast as they can. They're just having a really hard time getting their hands on supplies right now. I think there's still a delay on, there's like a window shortage, right? So it's the perfect storm of things that are, you know, that are happening that are essentially delaying homes from being built. But again, I would imagine over the next year or two, they're going to try to, you know, kind of kick that into gear and get more, more inventory out there.
Yeah. So, well, all right. Lots of news out there on the real estate. Reach out to Chris and I.
Oh yeah.
Nice. Reach out to Chris and I. Here's his number, 214-734-1531. If you're interested more in the fixed or the adjustable rates, knowing more about that, reach out to Chris. You're interested in looking at moving up, moving down, investing, reach out to Amy and I, 469-369-0873, and we'll get you taken care of. So until next time, hopefully, I think it'll probably be 78 or 80 by Thursday. So next week. So next time we meet, it should be sunny. So
for sure.
All right. Well, until next time.
Sweet. All right, y'all. We'll see ya.
See you later.